Welcome again. We're going to start part 2 of the forum. We have 2 of the 3 candidates that are running for Plymouth Township Treasurer. The incumbent, Mr. Ron Edwards, did not respond to our invitation, nor the follow-up emails or phone calls to him. Mr. Clinton is here, and Ms. Mary Siefert are here. So we're going to start with Mr. Clinton introducing himself and 1 minute to tell us about yourself.
1 minute, got it, thank you. My name is Mark Clinton. I'm a 28-year resident of Plymouth Township. I've never run for a public office before. I've got an MBA from the University of Michigan, and for the past 30 years I've been a business and financial executive with Fortune 500 companies. I was a management consultant with Accenture. I was the president and CEO of a legal software company, and now for the past 12 years I've been a senior sales director for Cisco Systems, a technology company responsible for about $2 billion of sales in a 12-state area around the Midwest. If you're interested in a career politician managing your finances, I'm not your guy. But if you're interested in voting for somebody who really understands finance, who understands how to run a business, how to grow a business, how to turn around a financial situation, I think I could do a pretty good job as the treasurer of Plymouth Township. My pledge to you, if you do vote me in, is the following, and I'm going to read this because it's really good. I will restore professionalism and integrity to Plymouth Township government while putting people before politics, getting control of our finances, and treating our taxpayers and business owners with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Siefert?
My name is Mary Siefert.
It's not on there.
Sorry.
Hold the mute button down.
Until it turns green.
Thought it was already. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mary Siefert. I'm a 20-year Plymouth Township resident. I'm a 30-year municipal treasury professional. I worked in medium to larger sized communities, both cities and townships. I just completed my 3rd engagement with the City of Detroit. My focus is optimizing municipal treasury processes and customer service delivery. My specialty is defining problems, fixing problems, and preventing them from recurring. I don't believe there is a problem that can't be solved. That's why people hire me. I'm running for office because I believe my community needs someone like me, my skill set, and the fact that doing a good job is in my DNA. There is no good reason why local government can't run like a well-oiled machine. It's all about the work for me and doing the right thing.
Thank you. Before we start with the questions, I want to point out that the incumbent, Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Clinton are running for the Republican nomination. So if you register as a Republican, you can get to vote for one of them. Ms. Siefert is the sole Democrat running for treasurer. She will appear on the Democratic ballot. Because it's partisan election, you can only vote for one party in a primary. And that's just a clarification, so you don't ruin your ballot by crossing party lines in a primary, because that'll throw your ballot right out. Okay, we will start with questions, and each of you will have 1 minute to answer it. The other one has 1 minute also. And we'll start with Mr. Clinton. What have you done for the township of which you are most proud?
Not very much. You know, like I said, for the past 30 years, I've been very involved in business. I've been very involved in raising my kids, and I've always felt a little bit slighted that I haven't had a chance to give back to the community. I'm at a point now in my life with my kids grown and out of college, and at a point financially in my life where working is really not a necessity. I'd like to use the skills that I've developed over 30 years in business and finances to give back to the community. I think this role of treasurer will be a perfect opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Siefert?
I'm most proud of the fact that I chose to run for public office. I've been doing this work a long time, and it's time for me to get back to the community that I've lived in for almost half of my life.
Thank you very much. We'll start the next question with Ms. Siefert. Last year, a full-time parks manager was hired by the township. Did you or do you support the $60,000 per year position?
I would rather fund a finance director, so I would have to do more research to answer that question. So I don't really have a yes or no answer at this time, but I would think that a finance director would be far more valuable.
Okay, Mr. Clinton.
I'm not convinced that the Parks Director is a full-time position and worthy of a $60,000 salary. I guess the question that I would ask, coming back, is this person's been in that position for about a year. What changes, what improvements, what grants have been made to justify that position and justify the $60,000 salary? So I guess, in summary, my answer would be no, I don't think I support that position or that salary for that position.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Mr. Clinton. What is the recommended fund balance for a municipality?
Right now, we're about a $14 million business. That means we bring in about $14 million worth of revenue, and we spend about $14 million. Today, we have roughly $3.2 million in our general fund balance. Common sense would tell you that that's not enough. If you've ever worked with a private financial advisor, they would tell you to put about 6 months of your finances away for a rainy day. So if you equate that to 6 months worth of our revenues, that would equate to about $7 million. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but my gut tells me we should have about $7 million put into general fund, and $3.2 million is low. We're not putting enough away for a rainy day.
Thank you. Ms. Siefert?
For a $14 million budget, $3 million in fund balance sounds about right. I would prefer more than that, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad number based on my experience.
Okay. I'd like to mention to both candidates, the camera's here, so when you're answering, don't answer to me, answer to him, because that's what the people will see at home when they turn it on.
Okay, thanks
Thank
for the
you.
reminder.
Okay. We'll start with Ms. Siefert on this question. Do you consider Plymouth Township to be financially stable?
I don't think that we can know that answer truly right now. I'm not sure that there's enough transparency of information in order to know that. I would have to go in and I'd have to follow the cash. There's no way for me to know that and answer that question right now.
Mr. Clinton?
I would say in the short term, we're financially stable. In the long term, we've got some problems. I believe that we've been kicking the financial can down the road for a number of years in terms of our debt and in terms of our legacy costs. Now, people may look at me and say, well, you're a candidate for treasurer, and of course you're going to say that. But I would refer you to Joe Heffernan, who's the lead partner for the auditors, Plant Moran. He was brought in to testify on behalf of the township in 2014 when they were negotiating with the firefighters. And what Joe Heffernan testified was that we had an ability to pay issue. What he was trying to do was basically get concessions from the firefighters in terms of their pensions, in terms of their health care benefits, in terms of other things. So his argument was we have an ability to pay issue. And his quote was something along the lines that in a short term, Plymouth Township should feel good about their finances, but in the long term, they should not feel good at all.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. We'll start with you for the next question. If money were not an object, what changes or improvements would you make to the treasurer's office?
I'm assuming you mean what to Plymouth Township. If money was not an option, what improvements
If
would you
money
make?
was not an option, what would you do to improve it?
it would be great if we could fix the roads. And I know that we pay taxes to Wayne County to fix the roads, and I know when you ask the question, why hasn't Wayne County fixed the roads, people just laugh and say, they don't have any money. Well, if we had enough money and we could finance that ourselves, additions to the road infrastructure would be terrific. Right now, as a homeowner, we just got assessed in our subdivision $2,800 per home, which equates to roughly 2 mills per year for the next 5 years to fix our subdivision roads. So roads would be number one. Another thing that I've heard, I live on the western side of Plymouth Township, another thing I heard would be walking trails, biking trails, which would connect our subdivisions to downtown Plymouth. So I think between the roads, walking trails, biking trails, I think that would be a terrific addition to our township.
Ms. Siefert?
As far as improving the treasurer's office, I know that there was a new financial system implemented, and I know that there have been some functionality problems. So I'm an expert in that software, and one of the things that I would do would be to make sure that everyone was trained, that all the technical and functionality problems were resolved so that the flow of information was much better and the reporting is much better than it is now.
Okay, thank you. The next question for Ms. Siefert. How long have you been a registered voter, and have you ever voted against the tax increase?
I've been a registered voter since I was 18 years old. And I've voted for some millages and I voted against other millages.
Thank you. Mr. Clinton?
Okay, somebody set me up with this question. Please raise your hand who did it. I admit, and I've had to defend my voting position for quite a while, I've never been interested in politics until a couple years ago when I started talking to people within Plymouth Township, concerned citizens. I really started to gain an understanding of what's going on in the township and the issues that are surrounding the township. And since that time, I've become much more interested in resolving these resolutions. But my voting record, and you can take a look at it, is very spotty. Never had much of an interest in local politics until the last year or so.
Thank you. And this will be the last question before the final statement. We'll start with Mr. Clinton. Why are we subsidizing Hilltop Golf Course at a loss of approximately $100,000 annually?
I've really got mixed feelings about the golf course. It's been a part of this community for an awful long time since I moved in here. I'm a golfer. I'm an avid golfer. That's not a good golf course. Now, having said that, if we were subsidizing it to the tune of about $100,000 a year for the Plymouth community, I honestly don't think I would have a problem with that. But we had the Billy Casper Management Company come in and give a presentation to the board several months ago, and in the statistics they showed that, and don't quote me on the number, but I think it was roughly 15% of the rounds that are played at Hilltop are played by people within the Plymouth community. That means 85% of the people are not in the Plymouth community. So in essence, we're subsidizing it for people outside of the Plymouth community. If we could somehow figure out a way to increase usage amongst the Plymouth community, I would feel better, but as of right now, I'm not a big fan of subsidizing for people outside of the community.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Siefert?
I'm not a big fan of subsidies either, but if you do the research, golf courses are not a core competency of government. So I'm not really a fan of municipal golf courses to begin with. If it was making money, that's one thing, but I guess only the next board can decide what needs to be done with the course, but I'm not a big fan of it. I have golfed, and I do golf, but I'm not a big fan of subsidies.
Thank you. Now we'll have our final wrap-up, starting with Ms. Siefert.
I'm a professional treasurer. I'm running because my community needs a professional and not a politician, so I'm with you on that, Mark. And I'm willing to provide professional services to my community. Or meaning name recognition and lots of signs along the roadside mean nothing. This forum is part of an extensive job interview to help you select 7 people who will hopefully represent you well. Do your homework. Vet everyone up here, including me. Raise the bar and choose wisely. The people you hire at the polls will have a very long probationary period. Remember, it's about the work, and if you're lucky, 4 of the 7 you hire will be truly interested in public service and working for you. There is no us versus them. We're actually in this together, and we need to facilitate cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Clinton, no, one more. Mr. Clinton has his chance.
Let me leave you with 2 words, and those 2 words are credibility and trust. If a leader doesn't have credibility and the people he's leading no longer trust them, then you've lost your ability to lead. And I'll use a sports analogy, but you see it all the time. You talk about teams, or you talk about coaches or managers that have lost the clubhouse. They've lost the ability to lead because they've lost the trust and they've lost the credibility. I think that's happened in Plymouth Township with the current treasurer. There was an article in the paper today in the Plymouth Eagle that talked about Dan Dwyer, who's the current mayor of the city of Plymouth, and he said something along the lines that, when we're talking about negotiating this $4 million discrepancy that we have between the city and the township, that he would negotiate with anybody except Ron Edwards. So I think that kind of gives you a sense for the fact that we've lost that credibility and lost that trust. So if you're kind enough to vote for me and I'm elected treasurer, my pledge again to you would be that we would restore the trust and restore the credibility in the position of treasurer in Plymouth Township. So thank you.